and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to show you guys my recipe for plait bread. Now this recipe has been requested for a while, so I'm going to go ahead and finally show it to you guys today. So before I get into the whole cooking process, let me go over the ingredients that I'll be using today. The ingredients I'm going to need to make my plait bread today is some all-purpose flour, some dry active yeast, and I'm using one package, and I have some sugar here. Now this is going to do a few things to my bread. It's going to give the bread a nice sweet flavor, and it's also going to help me activate my yeast. I also have some baking powder, and I have a little bit of salt. Now, the amount of salt that I'm using today is very minimal, and the reason for this is because whenever you add salt into something that you're baking, it really brings out the flavor of it. That's why I'm adding in the salt. But you do not want to add in too much, or else it's going to kill your yeast, and the yeast is not going to activate correctly. So you just want to be mindful of that. I also have some butter, and I have some shortening or Crisco. Now, you could use all butter, or you could use half Crisco, half butter, but I use a little less Crisco than butter because I find that gives me the taste that I would like. And I'm going to use some water to go ahead and mix my dough. So now I'm going to get into the whole mixing process. So the first step in making the bread is to go ahead and activate your yeast. This is also called blooming your yeast. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to cut open your packet of yeast. You want to get it into a little bowl here. And then you're going to want to pour in just about half of your sugar. Not even half, maybe about a teaspoon. You just want to eyeball this because the yeast feeds off of the sugar, and that's how the yeast grows and makes your bread rise. So I just want to add in a little bit here so we could start activating our yeast. This we could just add right in the dough. You don't want to add all of it in here at once. So what I'm going to do is add in some water. And you want to add in water that's lukewarm or about 110 degrees. And the reason for this is because if it's too hot or if it's too cold, the yeast won't activate. It's going to kill your yeast. So there's a few rules that you have to pay attention to while blooming your yeast. So you want to give that a quick little stir. And then you can go ahead and put this off to the side for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to put that off to the side, and I'm going to start working on my flour mixture here. So what you're going to want to do is go ahead and add in all of your baking powder and your salt. And remember, I did say before, you do not want to add in too much salt, because if you do, then it will kill the yeast, because salt sort of counteracts with yeast, so you don't want to add in too much. Next what I'm going to do is go ahead and add in my butter and my shortening. And you do want to make sure that the butter and your shortening are at room temperature, or also softened. I rather when they're not melted, because I find that when they're melted, the dough gets very liquidy and too soft. So I like when they're just softened and they're easy to work with in the bowl. So what I started to do here with some clean hands is you want to go ahead and just start breaking up the butter and the shortening. And you want to get it nice and crumbly. Now, you guys might be asking or wondering why I'm not using a mixer. Well, I just wanted to do it like the old-fashioned way and show you guys how my grandmother would make this versus using her mixer. So I'm just going to break in all of the butter and mix all of that shortening in. And since it was soft, it breaks up almost instantly into the flour. And it's a really easy job if you do it that way. If you would have had it straight out of the fridge and it was hard, then it would have been hard to mix in. But as you guys can see, I'm done. You guys are going to see that it's nice and it's almost crumbly, almost sandy. You get all of the flour coated in that butter and the shortening. So the next step is to go ahead and add in the rest of your sugar. Now, I know some people like their plait bread to be on the sweeter side, some don't like it to be sweet at all. The amount of sugar that I add in here does not make the bread overly sweet, nor is it bland in taste. So I'm going to leave my measurement for the sugar down below, but if you would like the bread to be sweeter or not sweet at all, you can lessen the sugar or add more sugar as per your taste. So I have all of this mixed in here, and I'm just going to wait on my yeast to finish blooming. It has a few more minutes, and I'm going to come back and show you guys what we do next. So I've had my yeast blooming here for exactly 10 minutes now, and I just wanted to show you guys the surface of it. You're going to see all of these little bubbles on the top. That's going to show you that your yeast is growing and it's alive. If it didn't do this after about 10 minutes, then you're going to know that your yeast was not good. And your yeast is usually not good if it's very old or if it's been opened or something like that. So my yeast is perfect here. It's all nice and bubbly on top, and this is what you want to see after 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and add all of this into my flour mixture. And remember, I mixed in my sugar here, my butter, my shortening, and the salt and the baking powder. So once you get that in, you want to give it a quick mix. Because depending on how much water you added in this step, depends on how much regular water you're going to add in here. So give that a quick mix. And now you just want to keep adding in water and working it in slowly. You don't want this dough to be overly soft. You just want it to be pliable enough for you to work with to make your plait bread. So I'm just going to keep mixing here. And this bread right here does not require a lot of kneading actually. And when it comes out of the oven, it'll still be nice and soft, like a nice loaf of bread. So you can see I added just enough water. Now, if you make your dough too soft, you can go ahead and sprinkle in some dry flour. And obviously, if it's too dry, go ahead and add in a little more water. So I might have to add just a little bit of flour. So I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna sprinkle in a little more flour because it's a little sticky at this point. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you guys how to knead this dough. So I added in about 2 more tablespoons of flour, being that I made the dough a little too sticky. And I just want to start kneading my dough. So you're gonna knead until the dough is smooth, and this is gonna take about 2 to 3 minutes. And you just want to keep cleaning off your hands with some of this dry flour and cleaning off the sides of the bowl. Now, of course, at this point, you could go ahead and put it into your mixer and do it the easy way, but I'm just going to show you guys this way for now. And I'm just going to keep kneading for about 2 minutes until it's nice and smooth on top. And you're going to notice the dough gets very springy when it gets to that stage. That's how you know it's done kneading also. So I just transferred my dough onto a little board here, or you could do it directly on your countertop. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead like this, and you want to grab your dough. And then you're going to want to go in with the bottom of your palm, or almost like your wrist area, and you want to start kneading the dough. You want to push, you want to pull in, and then you want to push out. Pull in and push out. And this is how you knead the bread. So I'm just going to keep doing this for about 2 to 3 minutes until it's really nice and smooth. And when you press into it, it's going to bounce back. So we're not at that stage yet. So I'm going to keep kneading, and I'm going to show you guys what that step looks like. I'm finishing up kneading my dough here. And you just want to get into a nice uniform ball. And we're going to go ahead and transfer it back into the bowl that we mixed the dough in. So this way it can sit and it can rise. And I just wanted to show you guys that when you're done kneading it, the way that you know it's kneaded properly is if you stick your finger in, it's going to bounce back on you. So let me show you guys. If you stick your finger in, you see how it bounces back? That's what you want. Before, when we would mush it in, it would stay there, but now it's starting to bounce back. That's how you know you've developed the gluten in the flour, and it's going to give your bread a nice soft texture once it's done baking. So I have it in a nice little uniform ball here, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in my bowl. And you want to cover this with a damp cloth or a damp paper towel, and you're going to let it rise for about 45 minutes to an hour, or just until this doubles in size. And after that, I'm going to show you guys how to form your loaf. My dough's been resting in my bowl covered for exactly an hour now. And as you guys could see, it doubled in size while it was in my bowl. And when you feel it, it's really nice and fluffy, almost like you're punching it down and all the air bubbles release when you do this. And it's really nice and soft. So what you're going to want to do is go ahead and get it into one big log. And I'm going to show you guys how to make the shape for the plait bread. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get just about 3 equal slices. And then I'm just going to take a little bit off of one of these slices. So I've got my 3 balls of dough here, and this is so that I could start braiding the bread and get that shape that plait bread is known for. And then this little ball of dough here is what's going to go on the top, and I'll show you guys what that looks like when we get to that step. So you just want to take one of your balls of dough, and you just want to start rolling it into a log. Now you can just go ahead and roll it against here, but I'm just going to start it like that in my hands. And you want to get it as even as possible so that all of your logs are the same size and it just looks uniform. So you want to do this with all 3 of them. And honestly, this step is not that hard. I used to think that there was some fancy step that was needed in order to braid the bread, but it's not that bad at all. So I'm just finishing this last log up right here. Now what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to go ahead and connect these 3 pieces at the ends. Then you just want to fold that end that you got down there, and you want to just fold it over just a little bit. You want to make a nice little edge on there. The next step is to go ahead and separate this side a little bit, and we're going to start braiding it. So you want to go ahead and lift that one side over, move this over, and then move the other side into the middle, and then we're just going to keep on repeating this until you get to the end of the bread. So again, I'm going to go in, and then once you get to the end, you just want to pinch the end together and stick it on the bottom of it. You just want to make sure that you have nice uniform ends so that they look really nice and smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and lift this up and put it onto my baking tray here. And I just want to let you know that I did butter just a little bit at the bottom. I did not put much because it's a non-stick baking tray and I know it's not going to stick anyway. That's just going to help the bread get nice and brown at the bottom. And if you're using a regular baking tray, it would help it not from sticking. Then what you're going to do for the last piece of dough is you're going to go ahead and roll it out. Now this is just a really thin piece of dough that's going to go on the top. I know that some people, when they make plait bread or when you buy plait bread from the store, it has this piece on top and sometimes it doesn't. So this step is totally optional. I just decided to show you guys. So once you get that log, you're going to go ahead and lay it on top of your plait bread. And as you guys can see, you have a nice perfect smooth braid, and then you have this smooth line going across the top. So what you want to do now is cover this with the same damp towel or paper cloth that you had, and you're going to go ahead and let it rise for another 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how much time you have, but 30 minutes to an hour is a good enough time for this to rest. My loaf of bread has been rising for an additional 30 minutes after I formed the whole loaf here. So you can see that it's almost doubled in size, and I'm going to go ahead and stick it in my oven now. Now I had my oven preheated at 350 degrees, and I'm going to leave it in there for about 18 to 20 minutes, but I'm going to check it in between just to see how it's doing. And at the end, I'll tell you guys how much time I had in there in total. I just pulled my loaf of bread out of the oven, and I had it baking for exactly 25 minutes. Now after 20 minutes, I did check it, and it wasn't as brown as I wanted it to be, so I left it in for an additional 5, and it got nice and golden brown on the outside. So once it comes out of the oven, and since I transferred it on here, you want to go ahead and butter the surface of the bread. Now, I'm just using softened butter because since it's so hot still, it's going to melt right away. And you want to put enough butter on the outside of it, because if you don't, the outside is going to get very dry, and it's going to get very crumbly when you go to slice it. So I'm just going to lather this up with some butter, and then I'm going to show you guys what it looks like when I slice it. You want to get a serrated knife for this, so this way you don't mash the bread down. You just want to cut all the way through it. I'm going to cut a few slices, show you guys a middle slice. And as I'm cutting it, it's super fluffy and soft. So just want to show you guys a piece from the inside. Now it's very hot. I do recommend that you let it cool just a little bit, but I'm impatient. It has the perfect texture. It's nice and soft. And the best thing about Guyana bread or plait bread is to have it with the nice thick layer of butter on it. So I'm going to go ahead and just let the rest of this loaf cool before I finish slicing the rest of it. And then I'm just going to go ahead and serve it. So I really hope you guys enjoyed cooking in the kitchen with me today. Please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so this way you can be notified on when I do post new videos. Also, feel free to leave a comment down below on what you guys would like me to make next. Thanks for watching, guys.